In 2017, I came to Italy and I actually spent quite a long time traveling between various refugee camps and migrants camps and so on. And I interviewed many of the migrants who'd come, many migrants who'd come across the Mediterranean in the gommoni and the little boats and so on. It was very interesting talking to these migrants and refugees because, of course, many of them are in fact displaced by climate. Many of them are also displaced by war and other political events like that. But again, the war itself has the war in Syria itself has a close connection with climate, because there was a great sort of drought in Syria which sparked a mass migration to the cities. Similarly, a lot of the migrants come from the Sahel, in Africa, where again there's a massive mega drought going on, which has displaced many, many people. Others have been displaced by floods, as in a lot of people in Pakistan have been displaced by floods. In Bangladesh, a lot of people are displaced by rising sea levels. Behind each migrant journey, there lie a number of different factors. So there again, you see a convergence of many different crises, There's a convergence of the climate crisis, currently in the world we're experiencing political crises of various kinds. We also have economic crises of various kinds. So it's all those things coming together to displace people. On the one hand, there can be a humane response to these issues. On the other hand, there can be a completely fascist and inhumane response, So on the one side, we see, for example, right-wing groups now across the world coming together to, and their response, I would say, is completely inhumane. What they're planning to do is really going to be a disaster, because at the end of the day, at some point, they will also have to recognize that they are vulnerable. They are no less vulnerable than anyone else. As we see today, climate change, it used to be said, will mainly affect the poor. But we see many rich parts of the world that are disastrously affected. California, California has been disastrously affected. You take Houston, one of the richest cities in the world, It's the center of the global fossil fuel industry. It's been disastrously affected. You take the Veneto, one of the richest parts of Europe, again, very badly affected. Look at Venice, what Venice is going through. So, this is a common condition. We have to recognize that at some point, any of us, may become a refugee, So there is that possibility. I must say, one of the things which gives me hope is that the young people today, led by Greta Thunberg and by others, they recognize that, this is not just a crisis of climate, it's a multiple crises, a crisis of inequality, a crisis of a kind of crazed capitalism, if you like. And I think they understand the problems of climate justice, climate injustice. And from that, I think we have to take some hope. So has anything changed in the public discussion of climate change? Yes, I think, in the last 2 or 3 years, there has been a major change, especially since 2018. I think it's increasingly clear to the world that we are in the middle of a real emergency and that we have to respond in some way. We see this happening more and more, but of course now, it's already so late. People have woken to this so late, so we have to, we can only hope that this awareness expands. I think we have to look at it through the frame of duty. What do we owe to the future? What do we owe to the planet? What do we owe to each other? So it doesn't really matter whether it's what the outcome is. We have to work at this because that's what makes us human.